if you were to redesign the university model to maximize its social impact, what is the first thing you will do?
I'd go back to what I said. I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all kind of scenario. And this is for those who are like me, who do not know anything starting out.
The experience, the fact that now you are done, did you figure out yourself through the journey?
Yes. Oh my God. My campus life was crazy. Crazy. University is when I learned whether mental health is a thing. It's an actual thing. Yeah, you don't have to be sick and in hospital being, attached to all these tubes for you to be sick. You can't be mentally sick. I feel like campus is supposed to be like a launching pad.
Okay.
In terms of education. Because when we talk about education, there's education and then there's learning. Yeah, at the end of the day, people are either educated or learning. Ah, my goodness. If you don't know how to process that, I don't know, man. You end up with some crazy mental health.
I warmly invite you to subscribe to our YouTube podcast, Modern Day Campfire, where we advocate for mental health through a powerful lens of visual arts and meaningful conversation. This platform is a safe space for reflection, expression, and healing. Created with care and authenticity, your support not only spreads the awareness, but also strengthens a growing community that values compassion, creativity, and open dialogue. Join us today in this journey. You are welcome here. Thank you. Hello, wonderful humans. Welcome to Modern Day Campfire by your host, Martin Sambia, where we advocate for mental health and personal growth through visual arts and talks. And today we have a very, very magnificent guest with us who goes by the name Orongo. And I'm just going to give you an opportunity to tell us, who is your most closest person in life?
It's crazy.
Okay.
But I'm an interesting character, so you have to give me a minute to think about that.
Okay.
Closest as in who's closest to me, am I closest as in who am I closest to?
Yeah, mutually.
Because if we're talking who's closest to me, in terms of who's closest to my heart, it would be my mom.
Your
hands
mom.
down. But who am I closest to?
Okay.
That would be my man.
Your man.
They're two different,
Okay.
they're two different ways. Yeah.
Okay, that is a good answer. And just out of curiosity, how will both of them describe you today if they were to do it on your behalf?
I'm not sure I can answer that.
Okay.
But let me try.
Okay.
My mom. I am an only child. So my mom would describe me as I'm very stubborn. I'm very strong-headed, so to speak. When I pick a path, I stick to it. So there's that. I think she'd also say I'm very independent. Okay. She keeps telling me that since I was a kid. She tells me, no, even when we used to send you to preschool, later kindergarten. Okay. But she tells me, no, even when we used to send you to preschool, come back, you have everything on check and whatnot. But for siblings, it's different. So I've been independent from the onset. Not independent in the sense that, they see this current narrative. I don't need this, I don't need that. No. Independence in the sense of
self-reliant.
Yes. Yes, I am self-reliant. And she'd say I am also very, very and a straight shooter. Akunanga. I don't do dodgy. It's either this or that. And I am one person who believes in, even generally, one of my life philosophies. You say it as it is to whoever. Yeah. So there's that. As for my man, I wouldn't know. We'd have to ask him. I wouldn't know, but he keeps telling me. He keeps telling me, I like your determination and I like your ambition. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that is profound.
Yeah, that's
And
that.
I just want to thank you again for showing up. I can't take it for granted. Yeah, and also showing for the audience. And in case we have a new audience today, and like, what would you tell them that they should be expecting to live out with at the end of this conversation?
This is what I'd say. First of all, for those who don't know me, my name is Orongo. I am a final year energy engineering student, waiting graduation in July. And today we're about to talk about the entire university experience. I think I just would start by putting a disclaimer out there that these are my views, but I do hope that from this discussion, someone leaves with pick something, whether they are about to join, have joined, and even for those who are done. You know, I think for me, I tend to imagine learning is continuous. You never stop learning, and you can always learn from your junior. You can always learn from a peer or even a senior. So yes, I hope you pick something new. I hope you laugh. I'm playing a clown. I don't know. I don't know if that will come out. We hope so. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. Yeah, so our first question is, what is that one myth that you feel like needs to be busted when it comes to like social impacts of university?
Oh, I'd say this from my own understanding. Let me dive into back a bit, and I'll tap into my experience as a university student, and let me just paint a picture of what I was going through at the time, so that someone has an idea. Because experiences shape perception, and perception becomes perspective, right? So I've never been one who knew what I wanted to do. I knew I was smart, yes. So by default, I figured medicine. I mean, such wasted brains. What do you want? What else do you want to do? And to this date, both at home and even outside my extended family, they call me Daktari.
Okay.
So there was that. So because I never had a dream, so to speak, growing up, that this is what I wanted to do, I didn't really know or have a set, mindset in terms of what I want from campus and how I'm going to navigate. But long story short, I did miss medicine by a point, cut off, oops. Cooks did me dirty, but yeah, so I did miss that. And then, what was the next big thing when you ask my father to tell you no?
Yeah.
And yeah, I did find myself in law school. That was 2020, Corona. So we began law school in October, online. So I was a law student for an entire month. But against my father's wish, I don't want to say my parents' wish because my mom is one of those people who says you do what you want. Against my dad's wish, I applied for an interfaculty transfer to
KU.
not KU, but I was already in KU.
Oh, you were already in KU.
Yeah, but an interfaculty transfer to engineering.
Engineering. Oh, okay.
Which is interesting because my dad was an engineer, but something about you doing and didn't sit well with the guy. So yeah, I found myself in that position. Ended up going into it, and 1 month down the line, I broke the news to him when my letter came, and he hid it. He told my brother to hide it. Came in because I was applying using his email. I didn't have an email on my own. he hid it. So I learned of it on a Friday. I learned about the letter on a Friday. At that point, my dad was really, really sick and hospitalized. COVID, we couldn't see him, quarantine and whatnot. I learned of it on Friday. I tried to go see him on Saturday. That was Saturday the 13th. Not the 13th, sorry, the 14th of November. The 14th of November 2020. I tried to go see him. I wasn't allowed because I wasn't spouse. But I did because I felt like this was it hurt me. I felt like this was a conversation I wanted to have one on one. I wasn't allowed to see him and I had to go back home. But we had a conversation that evening. I know you want me to do law. I know medicine didn't work out and I'm in law school, but I don't feel like this is it for me. I mean, yeah, I'm a certified yapper, so I definitely see why someone would imagine I'm like going to make a kick-ass lawyer. But yes, I was like, this is not it for me. I want something different. I want more. And akakubali shingo upande. He sometimes you can be so, like I said, I started by saying I'm very stubborn. You can be so, you can push and push and push and push mpaka mtu ako like just let her do what she wants. So that was kinda, he resigned. He was like, you do you. But it wasn't because he liked it. Unfortunately, he passed the next day. So at this point, my other engineering counterparts had already reported to school like a week before because engineering, they had to do physical sessions. You at the time we were doing mostly online learning, with like a virtual and physical session, but it also depended on your course. So for medicine and engineering students, we had to be on campus. So I learned a week, that Friday of the week guys reported, and I was already late. I learned of the letter, and then I confronted my dad about it. I told him this is what I'm doing, then he passed the day immediately. So on Saturday when we had the conversation, I said, I'm going to go to school on Monday. I told him, I want to go to school on Monday. On Sunday he passed on. So by Monday, of course by default, or disorientation, all the things, grief, denial, whatever, you call it what you will, I didn't. So on Tuesday, I came into school. Now, there is another story I have to give. I've started by giving that backstory is because, you see, first of all, I never had something I wanted to do in mind. Then I think looking back, someone might say I wanted to do engineering because I was like, yeah, why doesn't he want me to do it? And I knew I was capable, so I ended up there. And at that point, for me, it was more of where I come from. Education it's not do or do. It's not do or die. It's do or do. Like you have to do. For all my elder siblings and even the younger one, we always knew, even when we were in primary, that education, you have to go through education, finish your education. So for me, it was my mindset towards it, my meaning towards university and campus life as a whole was, I'm going in there to find out what works for me, because for the longest time I didn't know what works for me. I didn't know who I am. And that brings me to identity. So that for me is, coming back to your question, remind me because I haven't spoken so much.
That myth that needs to be busted.
Yes. So coming to your question, now I get why I just tying it together. For me now, at that point, I was like, I'm coming and I'm going to find myself, because for the longest time people told me campus life, that's when you find you have freedom, you have all these things. That's where you're going to find yourself. That's where you're going to, explore all these different things. So yeah, that was the first thing that got debunked. When I got it, I was like, hey, because even when, I remember when my older siblings were in campus when I was young, because I have way older siblings. I used to look at them and I was like, these people know what they're doing. These people know where they're headed in life. These people have their identity figured out. shock on me, yeah?
Yeah.
Shock on me when I got there and I'm like, these people have no idea what they're doing. You know? Everybody is just trying to wing it and hopefully things work out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can imagine there I was, my 18-year-old self dealing with grief. My dad is lying in a morgue somewhere. I just jumped. I just ditched the law ship. I'm jumping into the engineering ship. I'm late because my other neighbors have already been in school for some time. And I don't know what I want to do.
Okay.
So yeah, probably the first thing that I quickly learned was, hello, these people don't have it figured out the way you thought they do, one, and two, if you thought that you're going to have your identity figured out in this particular way, then fortunately not.
Now, from the experience, the fact that now you are done, did you figure out yourself through the journey?
Yes. Oh my God, my campus life was crazy, crazy. I have, the other day I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, and I was telling her some of the crazy experiences I've had in campus about, academically, talk about socially, whether it's through relationships, and I'm not just talking about the romantic type, like friendships. My God, my God. Whether it's spiritually, for those who are keen about that. The evolution socially, emotionally, oh my God, mentally. University is when I learned whether mental health is a thing. It's an actual thing. Yeah, you don't have to be sick and in hospital being, attached to all these tubes for you to be sick. You can be mentally sick. And I dealt with that at some point. I nearly had like a burnout, a mental strain. So I dealt with multiple things in campus. And as far as your question was, did I figure it out? Not yet. I'd say I'm still in the process of figuring it out. But I'm way, let's say I'm halfway past. Yes. Yes. And that for me has been honed through the experiences. When we dive into that, I have some crazy experiences in campus. So,
Okay. And I just I'm sorry I'm pushing you, but kuna something I want to get clear. Do you believe it can be a place for people figuring out themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, the thing with our education system, our education system, it's based on this ideology that there is a one size fits all. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it because, like you said, from your question, did I figure it out? I have friends who had it figured out even
before they joined.
There are those people who knew they want to be a teacher since time in memorial, and them they were just coming to put in the work so that their desired results are manifested. There are those people who always knew, and then there are those people who came in not knowing. My friends who came in not knowing, but they figured it out. You look at someone first year versus fifth year, fourth year, whichever, depending on your course, you can actually see the growth. You can tell this is not the same Linda, whoever I knew in first year. Like you can see, and that growth is as a result of experiences. Yeah. Because experiences do shape your perception. Your perception changes your perspective with time. So yes, I do think that I do, not for me personally, if I was to use other friends. I do have friends who through campus they have been able to figure themselves out, but I don't think it's a one size fit all. I tend to imagine, and it's something I learned in my later years in campus, that campus it's not supposed to, the way we are always told. It's such a cliche, but I have to, guys. I remember the way we are always told education is the key.
Yeah.
I think potential is the key.
Potential.
Not sorry, not potential. Opportunity is
Opportunity.
the key. Because in university, there's so much potential lying around. Everybody, you interact with everyone and you learn. Wow. Like I was talking to you just before we started, I was like, look at your art.
Yeah.
This in itself is potential.
Yeah.
So how many people do they go out of their way to tap into that potential? And then more importantly, how many have the opportunity to make something amazing out of their potential? So for me, I think that would be it in a nutshell, so to speak. I don't know if
you've answered my question.
Yes.
In a very, very profound way. And thank you for that. Yeah, that is that is well put. That is well put. So my second question is: do you have like this class experience where unexpectedly it changed your worldview?
Class experiences
in campus. It can be maybe a course in general, or yeah.
Wow, that's a good one.
Okay,
that's a good one. You know, looking back, I'd say I did more of the learning outside class.
Outside class. Okay.
Outside class.
Related to petroleum, energy engineering.
No.
Or now other fields.
You know, like I said, I feel like campus is supposed to be like a launching pad.
Okay.
In terms of education. Because when we talk about education, you know, there's education and then there's learning. Yeah, at the end of the day, people are either educated or learning. And many people will tell you, a lot of people are educated, but they're not learning. And very few people are educated and learned. Learned in the sense that, does that education help modify your worldview? Does it refine how you process stuff, how you deal with stuff, how you approach stuff? Then there is learning going on. If that's not the case, if you're just there to get a degree, I don't think you've really hit the learning outcomes. That's why they call them learning outcomes, not education outcomes. So with that in mind, I'd say for me, most of my learning was outside. There's no particular course I'd say really changed my worldview and in terms of my coursework, but I think one of the greatest lessons was how to do it. And you don't learn how to do it. Yes, unaweza gonga 02 cut. But is it really failure? Is it really failure? For me, I'd say learning in terms of outside classroom. Let me give examples.
Okay.
I'm going to do a lot of examples because
we have time.
I can only use myself. So I got into a lot of stuff. Most of these things most people don't know. I like to keep my stuff. It is my business. So yeah. But I'd say most of my learning was outside classroom, with my outside of the classroom experiences. So I went into campus politics. So many lessons. I went into association leadership. So many lessons. I started my own biashara. Lessons hapo. I did.
Hapo you experience failure.
Okay,
yeah. Concrete now class.
I had, so you see, and then finally, one of the other things that I did in campus is I started an entire association from the ground up, a new one. So
you wanna tell us maybe what it was about? What does it entail?
I will come to that, but let me just start with my learning outside class. So, and the biggest one was failure, because I came to realize how you process stuff really matters. Really matters. And I think for me, one of the biggest lessons pertaining failure would be how to separate it. When you've done as much Wait, I haven't done that. But when you've done as quote unquote much as I've done all at once, if I'm one person who really beats myself up about stuff. If I start something, like I said, I want this to work. I will pour my everything into it so much that when it goes south, it crashes me. So the first lesson for me was you need to learn how to separate things from you. Yes, it's your business. Yes, it's your venture. It's your leadership role. It's your academics. But if it fails, having given it your all, and this is only if you gave it your all, then it's not you who has failed. It's the venture that failed. If the business fails, it's the business that failed. It's not Mary's business that has failed. It's the business that has failed. Not Mary. Mary is still an entity. If I do something in leadership that ideally should not be a good, like it's not a smart move, that's how I learn. Yes, I made a mistake. Yeah, but that not at the expense of my sanity, not at the expense of my well-being. Yeah, you pick it, you handle it, you know the way we call it, you collect your L's. Yeah, like it's happened, we move. So for me, I'd say yes, that would be my greatest lesson: how to process failure, how to handle failure, and how to separate it from me as an entity. Because oh my God, Martin, hey, the heat. It got to a point where the heat just kept coming. Have you ever been in a situation where everything just falls apart all at once? This is a movie I watched. I think it's 2 years back. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I don't know if I'm getting it's some Chinese movie.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I've interacted with that.
My younger brother calls me racist because I can't tell the difference between Koreans and Chinese. I don't know, guys. Forgive me for the K-pop lovers, but I don't know. It's let's say it's an Asian movie. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I have been in situations where I made a wrong move, leadership-wise. My academics are taking a hit. My relationships are in the gutter. My friendships are breaking. My finances are, oh my God. So, and then it's everything. And because of this, at time, even my health was, my goodness. If you don't know how to process that, I don't know, man. You end up with some crazy mental health issues.
Yeah. And, and like you've brought two aspects. And one, you like detaching yourself from your work. And what I've noticed, even when it comes to success, when you detach yourself with it, it's so easier for you to continue when you succeed. But when you're attached to it, unaweza delay, waste a lot of time celebrating instead of doing the work. So the same here, applies to failure. So when you fail, you might waste a lot of time beating yourself. Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, and another thing, maybe I would say you are self-aware, and I feel like that really played a role for the way maybe you processed your failure. Because if you look at, like, sometimes I do have conversation with my friends. I know people who are not self-aware at all, like in my perspective, but things are falling into place in their ways, like like things are working out. But now, like, so sometimes you might ask yourself, like, is it important for you to follow this self-development journey or anything? But now I came to understand the importance when you face failure. Yeah, someone who is not self-aware when they face failure is not someone who is self-aware. Like now, this is where now the work,
bounce back.
Exactly. So the way we will handle it's totally different. When we hear things like suicides and everything, sadly to mention, these are the results. Like for some people, it was so intense for them to take it. Yeah.
And I think it's such a big thing. It's such a big, especially for us who we want things. We're the generation of microwave success. So we just want instant gratification. You know, we want, and it's all of us. Let nobody lie to you, Gen Z at your nini. No, I want to do Forex for 2 years and drive that Audi RS wherever. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay until the point where it's not. It's okay until the point where it's not. In the sense that there are those people who go in, put in the work, put in the hours, legally, morally, and it works for them. Because either way, right now, if I ask you off the top of your head, how many of your friends do you know who are driving cars at our age? Good cars, are living relatively well, have accomplished what took some of our parents 15, 20 years to accomplish within 3-4 years, and they didn't do it at the expense of their morals or they're not doing something illegal.
They exist.
They exist. Quite a number.
Quite a number.
Quite a number. Yes, they exist, right? The other day somebody was telling me, I have a friend of mine who's very cynical. Mimi, you want to convince me that you, a 24, 25-year-old, are able to do all this within this time frame without doing something illegal in a third world country, and you've not like invented some revolutionary app like TikTok or something of this? And I was like, yes. Yeah, I know 25-year-olds who are, you know, managing multi-million dollar in third world countries. So what do you mean? Recently, I met the managing director of Seller. It's a ticket company. Probably they're just branching into Kenya. They are very big in Nigeria, Western Africa. And that guy is so young. That guy is so young. And he's doing. You see him put in the work. You see him put in the work. So you can't tell me he like dodged something. He doesn't have DCI on his tail.
Clean work, putting out there.
Yeah. It's ni mtu mwenye ameingia job, put in the hours, and despite being young, yes.
Yeah, and also this goes back to learning, as you mentioned. I feel like with right mentors, right books, right people around you, it can save you a lot of time. And Pia, going back like to, I feel like having an abundance mindset. It's like none of those people who don't believe like you can just put in the work and then things work out. Like you can be morally upright and things working out. Like unapata kuna aspect ya scarcity mindset. So they have to compromise their morals for this thing to work. They have to
You sound like my elder brother.
Okay.
My elder brother is about preaching abundance and scarcity. And he says it in our vernacular, which is, he says it in a very funny way. I'm not going to say that out loud here. But he says it in a very funny way.
But you can say that name. I live with it.
My brother is always saying this. He keeps on telling us. Sometimes I do something, and this is a habit I'm trying to shed off where mindset is concerned. I'm always the person who wants to think 5-10 steps ahead at any given time. Now, it's a good thing until it's not. It's not, it becomes a bad thing when and instead of spending in things that would actually add value for you, you deny yourself because you're thinking of 5, 10, 15 steps later. And that speaks to your mindset, because that is a scarcity mindset. And we're not talking about it from the sense that, oh, be lazy and then just, spend, tumia pesa ikuzoe. Tumia pesa ikuzoe is good, but with the right approach, right?
Yeah.
With the right approach. Do you have a mindset of abundance so that you can invest in things, good things, yes, without so much worrying about what happens to this and that and a million other things at that particular point in time. So yes, mindset. That's also something I did. That's also something I learned. I came to realize, by the way, success is not just about hard work.
Very true.
It all starts in it all starts in the brain.
Yeah.
It all starts in the mind, so to speak.
Mind.
It all starts in the mind. I've been doing a little bit of reading. I'm not an avid reader. A little bit of reading, and the few people I've read up on, I come to realize CEOs and founders of conglomerate businesses, they started by building up that stuff in their brains. You read about even someone like Manu Chandaria. What are the conversations he was having? What was his vision? What was his plan before Chandaria became what it is today? Yeah. You go back to, and it cuts across this, regardless of the field, regardless of the person, whether it's art, whether it's technical stuff, whether it's business. It all boils down to what is the mindset of the vision bearer.
Yeah.
Because with the right mindset, you put in the work. Yeah. And when you put in the work, come on. I used to think all this universe or aura or manifesting or energies, vibrations was all just voodoo stuff. But I came to realize,
they are everything.
It's an actual thing.
Yeah.
It's energies don't lie. That's an actual thing. It doesn't lie. What is because your mindset does shape your perception, right? And then that boils down to what is the energy you're putting out there. Yeah. And this thing they always say, the universe is always less than
it is. And it magnifies.
And oh my God! And it let me give you a very interesting example. Let me give something so simple. So, 2021. Yes, 2021. I had a terrible road accident. And so afterwards, my entire right side of my body was affected. Yet I still have tissue that is healing, because for some tissues it takes some time to get there, depending on the part of your body. Ladies, so it takes some time for you to get there. So 2021, I had a road accident, terrible road accident along Nakuru, Naivasha, and 25th December of that year, niliamka hosi because I was hospitalized. My face took a significant hit. I almost lost an eye, actually. I almost lost my eye. I almost lost my right eye. My head, I had crazy trauma to my head, my face, my cheek, my chin. Yeah. We're coming, you get why it's time to the energy talk. So I struggled. And this is the story I always tell, because I feel like it's the simplest way to explain it. I struggled so much with self-image. I've never in my life. Martin, I was a fat kid. At a plump, I was a fat kid as a child. I have never struggled with self-image. Not once. Props to my parents, because I saw the confidence I have today is those guys. I owe it to those guys. I owe it to those guys. My mom would shut you down so fast if you came at me. She'd be like, hey, And then because of that, it was never planted in my head that Allah, nasio manona, ebu punguza kidogo, nilikuwa what we call mtoto fupi non around. I'm still short, but with the time, my body literally tweakaisha. But now back then, I've never lost the cheeks. That's what, every time I tell someone I was a plump to the I'm like, check my cheeks. You never lose those. Those ones in a backing it now.
So you can't lie.
So you know for a fact that I'm being honest. Yeah. So I was struggling with self-image because of my face. At that time, I was dating someone. I remember calling him. I'd lost my phone. So like 3 days later, I don't even remember how. I was on the bed at that point. I couldn't move much. I couldn't do much. Even and stuff. I couldn't do much. I remember calling him when I got I got a line, and I don't know how, but I did. I got his number. I called him. He was the first guy I called outside family. Actually, the first guy I called, because at that point, family knew. Yeah. So yeah, it was the first guy outside family that I called. I told him I want us to break up. And he's like, "What nini?" Because like I was in a bad accident, and you know how you're always telling me I'm so pretty. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like the result right now. At that point, I had stitches hanging. Nilikuwa nimeshonwa huku, nimeshonwa huku. It was crazy. It was crazy. Siku zimepungua. It was, and then nilikuwa literally I had been dragged through the tarmac. So even if you look at my skin, it is in lami ilikuwa kwa my skin, yeah. So I had it even on my face, on one side of my face, because apparently I'd been thrown out of the car. I had it even on my face. And now I was like, I had not seen myself, because at the piano one fura, you know, people fura after. I had not seen myself, but I knew it was bad. I could tell from the pain that it was bad. So I called him and I told him, I want us to break up. He was like, no. I'm like, bro, ni mina kusho. It's not looking good. You know that guy who says it's not looking good, bro? It wasn't looking good. It really wasn't looking good. But he didn't. We'd meet 2 weeks later. Thank God I didn't break any fractures. I didn't have any fractures, sorry. We'd meet 2 weeks later, and he looked at me and he was like, and he played it off. I don't know, but thank God for that guy. Because he was like, you're still very beautiful. What do you mean? I didn't feel it. And for the first time in my 20, at that point, 2021, I was how old? How old was I? I was like 19. For the first time in my life, I struggled with self-image. Me who was fat as a child. Struggled with self-image for the first time. But, and every time I became so self-conscious, I remember I would walk around with a scarf covering half of my face. Because I felt like, I don't want people to see this. I didn't feel confident about myself. I didn't feel good about myself. And by default, I would later learn I was projecting it onto others. So it wouldn't be a surprise when people would look at me
and act at up with
yes, act. Or look at me with sympathy or pity or all those other things that someone can look at you with. Because I felt like that. I felt I was pitying myself. I felt so bad about myself. I felt like I'm no longer pretty. I'm no longer worthy, so to speak, and whatnot. But that guy, quite honestly, and God, really was like, no, you look nice. You should stop using these things. You just walk around without it and whatnot. And at that point, of course, you know, after 7 days, when I go to stitches, so the stitches space metoka, the swelling is reducing all the time, and like kitokana as you heal. So yeah, I was like, and then I one time I remember looking at myself in the mirror, like 2-3 weeks into, for a month or so after my accident, and I was like, you know what, I am actually pretty. I didn't believe it, I didn't think it, but you know, you fake it till you make it. It's a natural thing.
Yeah, it is.
You say it, really and you say it, and you say it until you believe. You know the way they tell you don't lie so much because you might just start believing your actual life. It's true. That's how the human mind works. You keep saying till you believe it, and then when you believe it, you internalize it. And all of a sudden, I don't need Martin or my boyfriend or whoever to come up to me and tell me, hey, you look nice, because I know I look nice. And now I look at myself now, 2022, the 2022 January, February me, vis-a-vis the 2025 me, and nowadays, I don't even, honestly, it got to a point mid that year that unless somebody asked me, I even forgot. Because it became a very small thought in my subconscious, a very small awareness that, hey, kuna venye sura yako haiko kama za watu wengine. And even if you check, you notice that because of that accident, even my face is no longer symmetrical because of the cushion where you pull one side. So even when I smile, I don't smile normally. Kuna venye inakuanga side moja iko a bit tilted.
It's a funny thing. It's only you that
exactly.
know that.
It's only me who knows
that. Yeah.
And because I don't talk about it, other people don't pick up on it either.
Exactly.
Because what are you putting out into the universe? Whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, what are you putting out? And I kid you not, God is my witness. The first time I internalized that, I think it was around mid-February. I was walking to school and someone was like, "You're pretty." Of course, yes. Okay, so I looked nice. Mwenye alikuwa amenishuka hiyo mwezi pia alikuwa amefanya kazi nzuri. But outside of that, when they walked up to me and they told me, "You're really, really beautiful." So as I was saying, yeah, and then I realized what I put out is what I was getting. And that's a very simple example. I could go into multiple other examples of energies and vibrations and all that. And I kid you not, I don't even say it as somebody who's into Holocaust and all this. Not Holocaust, sorry. Horoscope. My God, Holocaust. That's dark, girl. That's dark. Horoscopes and all these other things. But basically that's just that.
Yeah. Point home.
Point home.
Point home.
What you put out there, definitely is what you need.
Yeah. And the evidence also you look for is what you will get. Yeah.
Seek and you shall find.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. My another question is, do you think university is more about networking or education? And which one is more important?
Again, this is my perspective. Education is at the backbone. But someone who leaves campus with a degree alone, in my opinion, has failed. Yeah? Because in a way, it is the leveling field. It is a leveling field. And it also opens up your mind. Exposure. Exposure. Even from that very basic level of it. Why do I say this? Because I remember when I joined now engineering, School of Engineering, I remember telling myself, herein lies, this is how I look at it, or any of my friends will say, this is how I look at it. That person who's next to you, like now, you right now, I don't know what you'll be 5, 6, 10 years down the line. Yeah? I don't know what you'll be 5, 6, 10 years, 20 years down the line. So I remember telling myself from the word go, you could be seated next to the next CEO of something, the next founder of a great app, the next greatest artist, the next real-time podcaster with millions and millions of views every other month. You could be seated next to the next senior engineer in one of these firms you've been eyeing for the longest time. And yeah, sure, it might not necessarily benefit you, but how do you relate with people? So for me, I'd say, yes, education is at the center of it, but if that's all you pick from campus, ungebaki to home. Ungebaki to home. Because, and let me explain this further in a personal way. How I relate with my classmates became, when I had that at the back of my mind, it shaped how I related with my classmates. Yeah? Because whether Martin is quote unquote mtoi wa ni rich kid.
Yeah.
Whether Martin is rich kid, ama Martin is just a raya like myself, ama Martin comes from a certain family or whatever, whether that is the case or not, it doesn't change what their life path will be like. Because guys who've come from affluence and have not been able to make anything of themselves. There are those who've come from affluence and they've gone on to do better for themselves. I think there are those who came from nothing. And those are the ones who really, really leveraged campus education. Because for them it's do or do. Yeah, what I was saying. There are those who come, and those really are the ones you want to look into. I keep telling everybody, I am a mentor. And as much as I'm a mentee, I mentor younger people than me. Even as I'm mentored, I have multiple mentors for multiple facets of my life. But for those who I mentor, I keep telling them, this is a personal opinion, but it is my opinion. I keep telling them, for me, my life, all the things that I have been able to do so far outside, family, just as Mary, the networks vertically have proven more important than horizontally. Vertically in the sense of peers, who are my networks, who are the peers who are around me, who I network with, who I surround myself with. Those guys have come in more handy than the CEO whose number I have, than the senior engineer whose number I have, than the, I don't know, executive, trade executive or managing director or all these C-suite, executives in these suite executives in all these nice companies we all want to work with. My peers, yes, they are important. It's good to network horizontally. It's very important, but not at the expense of the vertical connections, because I have organized so many events on campus, and some of these sponsors have gotten on board is because somebody's dad knew somebody, or somebody's dad was an executive. Now, had I gone to the dad as me, as opposed to as the son
as
or
the
the
son
daughter,
or the daughter, yeah, it would you
yeah,
a little friction, yeah.
aya toa wenye sasa wazazi wao wako quote and quote connected, bring in the guys like us whose parents are not as connected. There are people who have gotten, and I say this with all humility, attachments, internships, and jobs through me because of the networks I've made vertically, horizontally. Sorry, what am I saying? Let me check that again.
Okay.
Vertically is, oh my God, vertically
Yeah.
is upwards,
It's
guys.
upward.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Upwards as in CEOs. Okay, so that's, that's inverted. Horizontally are your peers.
So horizontally,
yes,
your
horizontally
peers,
are the guys on your level.
vertically
and
people
vertically are those
above
you.
you.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the guys who've been able to use me through my vertical connections to get something, despite me not being necessarily, these are not my fathers or not my mothers or my brothers or my sisters. They don't owe me anything, but because of the relationship we have, they've been able to leverage that relationship to benefit them by virtue of being that we are friends, we are peers, and the same is true, or the opposite is true. So, and even for my events and other initiatives that I've done, sometimes it's taken me using somebody else's connection to get something that I wanted. I remember some time back last year, I was organizing something, and a good friend of mine, he's such a clown, a good friend of mine,
Yeah.
I was telling him, I want to do this, and this is the concept, and this is this, and this is what I want. And then he was like, I can get you the CEO of Microsoft East Africa. I was like, yes, please. Yes, please. And that's just an example. There are other times where now that person, whoever it is, he was bringing me, it's a she, whoever it is he was bringing me for that particular event was not someone he's related to, but again leveraging his connections for me. Yeah. And Martin, I have never, for any of the opportunities of that, I've never sijaitafuta job ama attachment ama internship. Sijawahi. And I thank God for that, because yes, to him all the glory, but it all came down to unaishi aje na watu. This thing called kukaa na watu. You need to learn how to kaa na watu. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if campus education was all about the education itself, how many graduates do you know who are jobless? How many graduates do you know who cannot even survive? They can't even fend for their own needs. People who brilliant minds graduated top of their classes, but your education I was ID because there's more. It's just one side, but you have to balance the scale.
Yeah.
If you just decide wewe ni mtu books ndio ina nini hii pande ingine jamani,
Yeah.
this other side is the one that will help you.
Isn't
Yes.
It can work, but kupunguza hiyo friction.
Yes.
Please balance.
You have to have balance.
Uh-huh.
So I would say it's more the networking you do than the knowledge you have. Yes?
Yeah.
But that is not to say I encourage incompetence, because you have to be competent. That knowledge is the one which will keep you there. Networking might get you through the door, but the knowledge is what will keep you there.
Exactly.
That's what will sustain you, right?
Yeah.
So it is very important, and literally it is, any university is an institution of learning. So there should be learning going on at the end of the day. But that should not be the only thing. You'll hear all these Harvard, Yale, the Ivy League schools talk about holistic growth. What do you think they mean? I mean, they're offering the best there is in terms of A1 education. But why are they so keen on holistic learning? Yes?
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So my last question is, if you were to redesign the university model to maximize its social impact, what is the first thing you will do?
I'd go back to what I said. I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all kind of scenario. And this is for those who are like me, who did not know anything starting out. Like I said, I have had people who knew what they wanted from the word go, and that worked for them. And that's great, right? That's good for them, because this system was designed to favor them. But what happens to the rest of us who don't know what we want? Does that mean we are lesser? Does that mean we are left to grasp at straws for as long as possible until eventually the tide of, the wave just finds it somewhere and you're stuck doing something you don't necessarily like, but you have to because, bills have to be paid and the like. So for me, I'd say if we're trying to enhance higher education learning to fit the social impact, then just get rid of the one size fit all. Let me give an example with my course. Last year, the then we call them chairman of the Department of Energy, Gas and Petroleum Engineering, Dr. Njoka, shout out, one of my favorite people in campus. He brought in a friend of his who is a lecturer from Nigeria, one of the universities in Nigeria, engineer students. And basically he was going on and on about this new model of learning that they're introducing for their learners, where learners actually get to gain experience while learning.
Yeah, that is profound. That really is profound.
You're gaining experience while learning. How are you gaining experience while learning? Because you're actually working on actual stuff as a learner. So what they'd do is they'd have like a synchronized and a modified mode of learning, whereby at the beginning of the semester, this is a real company, a real existing company with a real challenge. Let me give an example, because I'm an energy geek. Let me give an example of e-mobility. Let me talk about Rome Electric as a company. So Rome Electric is an e-mobility company in Kenya. They are not manufacturing really, but more of assembling electric motorbikes and the like. And the greatest challenge, everybody in the mobility space, greatest challenge is, what we talk about, we call it slipping my mind, come on. The anxiety, range anxiety. And that is let me break that down. Okay. Because range anxiety, in the sense that you can't take your Tesla if somebody has a cyber truck, he has. I've not seen one in Kenya, but if there is, somebody, you cannot take your cyber truck and take it mashinani, say Western, kama hakuna charging station around.
Okay.
You're not even sure it can take that. I'm not sure about the name, but I'm saying now for them do this in this scenario. You're not sure about how far it can go, and even when you're sure about how far in terms of kilometers it can cover, because of the current infrastructure in our country, we don't have enough charging ports across. Sasa nikitoka hapa na Ndudhi alafu inizimie Naivasha alafu. Now, luckily for the electric motorbikes that Rom Electric is pushing out, you can charge, right? But what happens for the different batteries? In terms, okay, you know what? I just realized I'm not going to bring this out clearly, so maybe you'll take that out. Maybe just take it again. What was your question? So that I give a simpler name.
Or like if you were to redesign, but you are trying to explain the way like you can implement learning. You like
yes. Yeah. Thank you. We'll just do away with what I was saying.
It's okay. It's okay.
So in terms of implementing learning, so that it merges well with social impact, and I was giving an example of a lecturer sitting through a lecturer from an international a professor from Nigeria, where they are implementing a modified mode of learning, in the sense that learners gain experience while learning, and that is simply achieved through having learners work on real-time issues, even as learners, something they can put in their CV, and it actually counts as experience. So, and I want to give an example of, so for instance, Rome Electric, they're trying to take care of the issue that after 1-2 years, their batteries for their different electronic motorbikes, sorry, inakuwa, it becomes inaisha, it becomes depleted. So they have to, people have to replace.
Okay.
And this replacing is expensive because the battery goes for what, 150,000. It's like an entire new. So some motorbikes go for that much, or even less. Yeah, for those who are buying second. So that is the greatest challenge. But after 2 years, you have to change it. You have to change it. So they partner with, say, an institution such as KU. KU comes in, and what it's doing through its School of Engineering is using its learners. We're like, these are the learners, these are the brains. You have a problem. Here is your solution. Let them find their solution. And in finding their solution, they are also achieving the learning outcomes for a particular course that ties to that particular thing. Now, when this learner finishes their 5-year course, their 4-year course, and they go into the market, and you ask me as a potential employer, okay, so what experience do you have? I'll be like, I have worked for Rome Electric for 6 months, during which I worked on a project regarding their batteries. This is what we did. This is what we managed to come up with. And thanks to that, we've come up with a modified product that is more, fitted for the market, and addresses key market areas or market issues in as far as the product design and development is concerned. Now, if that is the case, then this student is getting the exposure, is getting the experience, and more importantly, the social impact in terms of transforming this knowledge, this theoretical knowledge, into something that actually benefits the community around. Yes? And we keep on talking about wanting Kenya to be an industrialized country in terms of more manufacturing factories coming in and whatnot. The ideas, the answers, the products, all these things lie within the young learners at the university level. And I'm not just talking about this from a technical aspect, across different sectors. Now, the question is, if this learning model can be modified to suit the learner and the provider, the education providers, in this case, the government, so that you come use me,
win-win situation.
You come use my brains to find actual answers that provide solutions for my community, then we are talking about an education system that actually adds value.
Yeah.
So that Mwakenya's is not the order of the day anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're helping me, I'm gaining experience, I am solving a real-time issue in my community, I am helping my company, not my company, I'm helping my institution, I'm helping my country move forward. Because those are the things, those small efforts, and those are the things that eventually will culminate into an increased GDP for the country, and then, you know, we are industrializing and we're bringing in all these things. But if and only if the guy is responsible for the level and the quality of education that we receive up there again, then we can talk about the social impact. Then a learner knows for a fact that, yes, I'm coming to learn and I'm integrating this. I know this is where I'm headed. If I take this right, if I run with this, if I maximize the potential we are talking about, and then there's this opportunity that has been presented by the education giver, then we know for a fact that, yes, we are looking at a multifaceted learner. Not just someone who is about the books, that is someone who is thinking networking, who's thinking solution, you know, providing solutions, who's thinking. I think that's as much as I can say with that, with regard to that question, unless there's any other
question
that is, you know.
Yeah, that was the last one, and honestly speaking, like, you are the right person for this. You really were. Like,
oh my God.
I felt like an audience. Like, I've done a lot of learning. Thank God I'll be editing it. Then I'll do other learning.
Definitely.
Yeah, but thank you again. So maybe what do you think we haven't addressed? Like, that one thing that you can leave someone with.
I did come with some notes.
Okay.
So maybe let me just rush through them so that I can see what I had intended to put across. Yes. Wow, you've covered most of it. I think what I'm seeing from here that I thought you'd ask me about would be the real education, which we have touched on in terms of growth, identity, community, and power and its importance. But outside that, I would say, okay.
Or if I was to rephrase the question, outside what we've learned, what is one thing you love to put across? How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as the university and the campus experience is concerned, I think it's interesting what campus is for different people. Like the campus experiences, there's a generalized campus experience, but at the same time, it's such a personal journey that is specific to people, depending on where they are. Now, for example, I have dealt with 3 elections. I have dealt with a road accident. I've dealt with grief. Like, I've dealt with loss. I've dealt with terrible, terrible, terrible heartbreaks. I just don't mean the romantic kind, yeah. Financial. Remember the first time I bought an account and it sank. And I was like, my world is ending.
That was
the first time that I made like
the biggest loss. Financial loss.
the biggest
financial.
Yeah, financial, and I was like, oh my God. I remember calling my mom crying.
Yeah.
Like, gosh. Yeah. And all these other things that you experience, and you realize that for me, like I said, campus life is personalized. Campus experiences are personalized in as much as there's the general perspective of campus life. But for me, I would say all these different things. I look back at that particular point when I was going through all of them, wasn't so like it looked so bleak. Looked so bleak. It wasn't looking good. But now I look back and I'm like, it has shaped who I am. It has shaped how I process things. It has shaped how I approach things in life. It has shaped how I reason out things. And I still feel like I have a long way to go, but at the same time, it does instill things. That lessons you go picking along the way that just refine who you are. It makes you know better. You know, you can only do better if you know better. If you don't know better, then you can't do better. And for you to know better, you have to experience things that teach you better.
Better things, yeah.
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 So there's that. You did ask me about the association. Yes, I started an engineering students association, women in engineering, first ever, together with a couple of my friends from multiple other universities. I influenced some of my friends to start their own. And I'm so proud that Multimedia launched their own. UON is working on launching their own. We have all these multiple universities now because we started a women in engineering kind of movement, so to speak. And that for me is one of my best things because I kept telling people, I call it SOE. I kept telling SOE is my baby because yes, I did it with a bunch of incredible ladies. I did it with Daphne and Maria and Wamboi and Sophia. The Sophia would leave, and then we had Monette. But this association was our brainchild. Look back at what we've done with it, despite the setbacks when we were starting it. And I'm so proud. I am so proud. I like, and this is what we started with failure. The number of times, Martin, that we dropped the ball with that association, God is our witness. The number of times that association has broken my heart, the number of times I felt like this is not working, like, oh my God. We've done 2 major summits so far outside other activities that we've done. But the heartache, the heartbreaks, the L's, my God, the L's. But you'll never see that because now people, and just bringing that kind of visibility for that association, a young one as such, and then creating a ripple effect that affects
Other
institutions
universities.
outside your own. My goodness, the joy that comes with that accomplishment. Now I know for a fact that I can start something and I can keep it off the ground and it will run, and I don't have to worry about all the other else because it's part of the growth process.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then I think my political life in campus is also, it's also one of that is a story for another day. Oh my God, it was, I went through stuff, Martin. What?
Yeah.
That's a story
I guess,
for another
yeah.
day.
I feel like we need a topic on loss and grief.
Well, I'm not sure I'd be the best person to talk about that.
But you can touch someone's.
That just scratch the surface kidogo. I do.
Yeah, it's funny. Many people many people resonate with you. Many people resonate
Why?
with you.
Because I've been through most of these things.
Yeah.
I've been through the gutters. Yeah, but it's true. I have dealt with people. I dealt with loss of a loved one. Dealt with loss of multiple things. Dealt with grief. I have dealt with self-image. Couple of things. A couple of things.
Yeah.
A couple of things. So yeah, but I don't think I am. I'm a guru to speak about it. I feel like there are people who are better
Okay.
to
If you
comment on
insist.
it.
I still
Wow! If I
disagree.
insist,
I
sawa
still
sawa.
disagree. Okay. Thank you again. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
You're most
It's
welcome.
been a lovely, lovely time. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at my name and I'm like, wow, time has
That's
really
right.
gone.
Okay.
But I had an amazing
Moment. Same here. A pure learning experience and connection too. Yeah, we've never had. We used to have these conversations,
yes, but
but
not on
so intentional like this.
yes, true.
Yeah, and I'm noticing like a lot has happened in your life for
Oh
those
my god.
2-3
I
years.
just learned before we did it, I also learned a lot has happened in your
Your
life.
life, yeah, yeah.
So it's crazy. It's crazy
Yeah.
how much can happen within such a short period of time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for watching. You are part of the reason we keep doing what we are doing. So thank you again. Yeah, that is all.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.